Hey friends, Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Hope that you're well. 2025 is off to an interesting start. Just recently, Christian Dior decided, oh, Dior Homme Parfum, that's okay. Dior Homme Parfum 2025. They've got like the whole media blitz out for that fragrance. I think every single time that I pull up Instagram, I see their little commercial pop up where Francis Kirkshawne hops in the car and he's like, yo, smell this, dog, to Robert Pattinson, who goes like, it's interesting.
It's very different, it's different.
I'm sure you've seen it if you have been on the internet at all. But Yves Saint Laurent looked at that and they thought to themselves, you know, why has Christian Dior gotta have all the fun? I think I want in on that too. Enter YSL Parfum 2025. Because this is the year to take Parfum editions that people are all about and just go, yeah, no thank you. So today we're gonna be taking an in-depth look at this new version of YSL Parfum, how it compares to the original YSL Parfum. I'll let you know how similar or different they are. I'll let you know if you really need to be trying to scoop this one up, if you're in love with it and want some backup bottles, because this is being replaced by this. I say is being replaced, it has already been replaced, I guess would be the correct terminology there. But as you know, when something is discontinued or replaced, it doesn't just magically vanish from everywhere, so you still have an opportunity to pick this one up if you really like it. And honestly, you'll have an opportunity to pick it up again in the future. It just might be for like 3 times the price on eBay from somebody scalping it, but technically, it's still an opportunity, I guess. I purchased my bottle directly from YSL. It cost me $155 for this 2-ounce size bottle. And interestingly enough, when I made the purchase, and still as of when I'm filming this video, they only had this size available. So the larger size like this, not available. Smaller size, also not available. And those prices are slightly wonky. So like I said, $155 for this one. The smaller size bottle is 40 milliliters, so 20 milliliters less than this one. And it is $108, so almost 50 bucks less. And then the 100 ml size bottle, which is this size right here, is $185 according to their website. I'll have both of these fragrances linked in the description below. Feel free to check them out down there. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at this presentation. First up, the box. On the front of the box, you have the name of the fragrance, you have your brand name and the concentration size as well. Little YSL up on top of the box. You have on one side yslbeauty.com, on the other side a QR code. On the back you have your ingredient information along with your precautions and your barcode, and then on the bottom you have your badge code. My badge code is 38YN018. And here we have a closer look at the bottle. Again, this is a 2-ounce 60 ml size bottle. Coloration wise, it's a little bit similar to Y Eau de Parfum Intense, but it's not as see-through, not as clear as that one is. You have a little YSL on top of the cap. You have a sticker with your badge code on the bottom, and the cap does click into place. Let's go ahead and share a couple sprays. Here we go. So the atomizer on this one is pretty much the exact same as the atomizer on Y Elixir. Now I don't know if you can tell in the video here, but you saw the atomizer there. Check out the atomizer here for the old one. It's way better. I noticed that as soon as I got YSL Y Elixir the first time, sprayed it on, the atomizer just felt kind of janky. Same thing is going on here. So it's not really a huge deal at the end of the day, but to me, it does feel like they have downgraded or cheaped out a little bit on the new atomizers for the Y line. And some fragrance lines have also had some issues with different atomizers as they've rolled out new fragrances, new lines. And part of that, depending on the fragrance line we're talking about, is refillability. So they're making these fragrance bottles refillable, and sometimes the atomizers are just a little bit wonky. Again, I'm talking about just the entirety of all fragrance lines when I say that. You know, there have been some issues here over the last couple years as far as that goes, but yeah, atomizer kind of sucks. Just in terms of how it feels, doesn't really feel premium. Now, as of this video, if you're looking for YSL Y Le Parfum, the original version, you're gonna wanna be looking at fragrance discounters because this is being replaced pretty much everywhere if we're talking about retail. by this. So be aware of that. It is pretty easy to tell the difference and know which one you're getting. Obviously, this one's all blacked out, so that's the original version. And if you do shop for YSL Parfum, the original, at discounters or any other fragrance for that matter, here are some coupon codes you can use to save a little extra money. The JOMASHOP codes only work within the app, so do be aware of that. And Max Aroma has slashed our codes. We have only now the 10%. All the other codes work as usual, and there are a bunch of different discounters on there, like Fragflex, the Perfume Box, and more. So how does the new YSL Parfum 2025 smell? Is it different, noticeably different from the original? Well, first off, let's take a little look at the note breakdown. So if you go to YSL's official website and take a look at the note breakdown there, it is very, very simplified for the new version compared to the old. Whereas the original YSL Parfum had notes like apple, ginger, lavender, sage, geranium, tonka, cedar, olibanum, and more. Essentially, YSL Parfum 2025 is simplified down to 4 notes. Those notes are fresh geranium, invigorating pine, sensual patchouli, and rich fir balsam. So you can see right there, just as far as the note breakdown goes, pretty different. And one other thing to keep in mind with the new version of YSL Parfum is depending on where you look, the note breakdown is a little bit different. So I mentioned earlier the official note breakdown from YSL that you're gonna find on their website, but when this was first announced, it had, for example, in the opening ginger and bergamot, but no mention of geranium. So depending on which website you get your news from, your information from, the note breakdown could be a little bit different depending on where you look. But how does the fragrance smell? Does it actually smell noticeably different? Oh yeah, yeah. This is not a repackaging, a rebottling, a slight tweak of the original. No, this is something completely different. So again, I've said this in a few different videos now at this point, but if you absolutely love this fragrance, this version, you may want to scoop up an extra bottle if you're worried about running out, because this is not going to scratch your itch for this. It just isn't. And that's whether we're talking about off skin, which realistically is what matters, or off tester strips. So when you first spray these two fragrances on, how do they differ? Well, to me, the new version actually does come across fresher. It has almost this very lively, zingy opening, like fresh, spicy, even like a touch of an icy freshness in there, but not really overly sweet. Now, when you spray on YSL Parfum Original, that one is a bit thicker, comes across with a little more density to it, definitely sweeter as well. You know, it's got that Y DNA front and center, talking about YSL Parfum. You know, that apple tonka sweetness, you get that right away in YSL Parfum Original. And yes, there's some fresher aspects to the scent, but it's not as fresh as this one over here. But this one, the new version, nowhere near as sweet as the original. So yeah, very zingy, very fresh, very lively when you first spray on the new version, and it smells good. I know for a fact this is going to get absolutely buried by people that love the original. For the same reason the new Dior Homme is getting buried, right? The new Dior Homme Parfum. You're taking a fragrance that a lot of people think is possibly the best one from a line, a really popular line, and then you're saying, that ain't good enough for us. We're gonna kill it off and replace it with something that's pretty much completely different. A lot of people are not gonna like that, for good reason. And I feel the same thing is gonna happen here for sure. At least initially, you know, like the first year or so. You're done, buddy. People are just gonna be pitchforks. Essentially, that's Frankenstein running away. Everybody's chasing after it. But yeah, opening, very different in the new version compared to the old version. Now, the opening in the new YSL Parfum doesn't really stick around a whole heck of a long time. I just sprayed it on, right? And that really fresh, zingy opening, kind of like fresh, spicy, that goes away real quick. So it fades down and then you get woody notes that come out, which makes sense because that's really the whole selling point of this fragrance that YSL's put out there. Their website says that this is the fresh midnight pine intensity, a long-lasting and highly concentrated fresh woody ambery parfum built on a powerful, cool, and warm contrast of top notes followed by a deep and sensual dry down. So they're pitching it as fresh midnight pine, which I don't know if midnight pine smells different than noon pine. Maybe in the sense that it's like cooler outside. So yeah, that kind of light icy touch off the top I mentioned. Maybe that's what midnight pine is. Or maybe it's just marketing. but it settles really quickly into a woodsy kind of green mix. Comes across definitely more classically masculine than pretty much all the other Y fragrances, which is why when I tried this on by itself without spraying side by side, it reminded me the most of Y Eau de Parfum Intense, just in the way that this one has a little more of that, you know, kind of aromatic feel to it. It comes across a little bit more mature, and I was like, oh, this is kind of in that ballpark, but side by side, they are pretty different. That was supposed to go that way. Let's try again. A little better. And while this one, the new version, is settling into a very masculine, woodsy, non-sweet dry down, the original Y Eau de Parfum is hitting you with sweet sage, tonka, the remnants of the apple as it dries down, and a pretty big dose of lavender as well, which pretty much all of that is missing from the new version. So just to drive it home, on skin, side by side, these two don't really have a whole heck of a lot in common outside of, you know, there is that faint reminiscence, that faint waft of the Y DNA kind of working and lurking in the background of the new version. But for a lot of people, what makes YSL Y is the way that it presents itself in a very wearable, versatile, but sweet scent profile. And I would say easily, to my taste, this is the least sweet of all the Y fragrances. So for some people, that might be good. Some people who are looking for something that doesn't play in that ballpark, you know, because a lot of fragrance releases nowadays do. But if you're looking for that typical Y DNA, you know, loud, sweet, great projection, amazing longevity, compliment puller, all that stuff, with that very familiar Y DNA wafting throughout, the new one probably going to disappoint you. Now, as it hits the far dry down, the new Y Eau de Parfum does get a little bit warmer, but still not really sweet. It's just some of that like spicy edge that woody notes can have slowly matriculates away as the fragrance dries down. But it still has remnants of those green aspects, the greener aspects from the woods in the far dry down, so those linger through. And when I say green here, I'm not talking about like a really aromatic green feel, which would be more in line with Y Eau de Parfum Intense. It really is more pine needles. The balsam fir, of course, which is listed, kind of works underneath the pine, but the pine is really one of the driving forces, if not the main driving force here. And I actually think the new Y Eau de Parfum smells really nice. It is different from most everything coming out nowadays in the sense that there's not really a whole bunch of, like I've said a few times, sweetness here. Most fragrances will have some. Even if it's not a ton, they'll work some in there to kind of take off the edge from different things. And you get a little touch of that in the opening, but once it settles in, it's pretty much about the woods, which is like the polar opposite of what's going on in the original. The new version definitely comes across more grown up, more mature smelling. I think younger guys, you know, teenagers, early 20s, who are looking for something more in line with like what's really popular right now, you know, loud, sweet fragrances. Like I said, that's not what this is. And you'd be better suited probably going for this one over this one in that circumstance. I think between the two, the original and 2025, if you're looking for the bigger overall compliment puller, that's gonna be this one, the original one. I just think that the Y scent profile as it's been established works so well, and the original Y Eau de Parfum just absolutely crushed. It's just the Y DNA as it's been established is absolutely fantastic for somebody who's looking for something that, like I said before, performs, gets compliments. You know, it's really hard to take that and improve upon it, and in terms of the type of scent that the new one is, it doesn't. So like I said, you're after compliments, you're after something that's a little bit louder, that's gonna be the original version. It's better in that circumstance. Now in terms of overall versatility and seasonality, I think that the original Y Eau de Parfum is really better suited for fall and winter time. At least for me, that's kind of when I have gravitated more towards it. Y Eau de Parfum, maybe a little bit more during spring, also summer, as long as the sprays aren't crazy heavy. That being said, the original is close enough to the original Y Eau de Parfum that you could wear this during spring and summer. Also, daytime or evening, even though it is known as a really great night out fragrance, whether we're talking on a date or just going out on the town. The new version does lean a little more overall versatile to me, and that's because it's not quite as heavy-handed the way that it comes across. So I'd say fall, winter, spring, summertime, maybe would go something a little bit fresher, but I could say that for either one of these. And if you really like the scent, obviously you can wear that during summer. Just the same caveats apply. Don't go crazy heavy, especially if it really projects heavily off your skin, but that goes for literally every fragrance in existence. Now, as far as performance goes, this is a first impression video. I've not been able to wear the new one across all the different seasons and everything since, you know, it just came out. But the performance is pretty good. It's solid, it projects well, it lasts a good amount of time, but between these two, the original does come across a bit stronger for me. So this new version of Y Le Parfum, overall, how does it stack up? Well, price-wise, you know, as far as full retail goes, it is pretty much a wash. I mean, I know that you can find this one at discounters, but when it was brand new, you couldn't, so I can't really, you know, rank them as far as that goes and go, it's such a better buy because it's cheaper at discounters, because eventually this will hit that. But as far as the scents themselves go, I think they're almost kind of made for different people to an extent. This one is for somebody who wants a fragrance that, yes, is sweet, is attention grabbing, is compliment pulling, but is a little bit more reined in, slightly more classed up compared to, for example, Y Eau de Parfum. And it still has that Y DNA that was established with the Eau de Toilette and the Eau de Parfum front and center, just tweaked and changed a little bit. And I think as far as age range goes, you know, just about anybody can pull that off. The new version, obviously, much more woodsy, far less sweet, and has less of the established Y DNA to it, for whatever that's worth. It's probably not going to appeal quite as much to younger people as this version or Y Eau de Parfum will, but for somebody who's looking for something that is going away from all of the sweetness that so many fragrances have nowadays, this could be an interesting pickup. And I think as far as just my own personal taste, I like Y Le Parfum 2025 more than Dior Homme Parfum 2025. But I do hate that they have to kill this off to bring this out. And it does make me wonder if they're gonna mess around with stuff even more as time goes on. Y Eau de Toilette has been reformulated and changed. Y Le Parfum has been reformulated and changed. Y Eau de Parfum, I would assume they leave it alone because it's their best seller in the line, but I've been wrong with these brands before, with the assumptions. So there we go, Y Le Parfum 2025. Smells darn good if you're looking for a woodsy scent that's a little bit different than most of the other things coming out nowadays. But it's a darn shame that they're killing this off because Y Le Parfum, the original, super good. Kind of sucks. They should not do that. And if I had to keep just one of these, if I had to keep just one, you know, I'm gonna roll with the original. But I do like how that one smells. So there we go, guys. Thank you for hanging with me here today. Stay safe out there, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.